Imagine, if you can, you are standing on the swaying deck of a wooden ship.
And it is definitely not a luxury cruise.
No, definitely not. The year is 1600. You are the pilot major of a Dutch warship called the Erasmus.
Right. And you left Europe almost 2 years ago. You started with 5 ships and a crew of hundreds.
And now you are down to one. One battered ship and a handful of walking skeletons.
It is such a grim picture. I mean, you are sailing completely off the edge of the known map.
The food ran out weeks ago. The water is basically slime.
Yeah, and your men are literally rotting alive from scurvy. You know, their gums are swollen over their teeth, old wounds are reopening.
Their minds are just fracturing from the despair. You are starving, you're dying, and you're chasing this rumor, basically a ghost story of a land called the Japans.
And just when you think it absolutely cannot get any worse, a storm hits.
A massive typhoon. It just picks your ship up and hurls it toward a reef. You hear the keel scream across the rock. You black out. And that is exactly where our story begins.
Because when you wake up, you haven't just washed up on some deserted island. You have crash-landed into a civilization that is more alien, more terrifying, and infinitely more sophisticated than the one you left behind.
You've landed in a world where a single breach of etiquette, like a bow that isn't deep enough or raising your voice too loud, can cost you your head instantly.
Instantly. It's a completely different paradigm.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are tackling an absolute giant. The book name is Shōgun novel by James Clavell. And looking at the sheer volume of this narrative, you realize pretty quickly this is not just some basic adventure story about samurai and swords.
No, not at all. It is a total masterclass in political maneuvering. It's a study in leadership.
And fundamentally, it's about the collision of two completely incompatible worldviews.
Exactly. It's about what happens when this singular English pilot, John Blackthorne, is stripped of everything he knows, his identity, his religion, his pride.
And he's slowly, painfully rebuilt into something else.
Rebuilt into a samurai, yeah.
So we're going to be talking about warlords, Jesuits, geishas, and this brutal game of chess played for the ultimate prize, which is the title of Shōgun.
But before we get into the intrigue, we really have to set the stage. Because the year 1600 isn't just a random date, is it?
No, it's the absolute pivot point. You have to understand the mindset of our protagonist, John Blackthorne. He's an Englishman, a Protestant, and he's piloting for the Dutch.
Right. So for him, the world is binary. It's a massive war zone.
The Protestant nations are locked in this absolute death struggle with the Catholic empires of Spain and Portugal.
And it's not just about trade routes or spices. I mean, it is a holy war.
Exactly. And the Pope has literally divided the world in half.
The Treaty of Tordesillas, it's wild to think about today. But the Pope gave the Americas to Spain and the East, which includes India and the Japans, to Portugal.
So as far as the Portuguese are concerned, the Pacific Ocean is their private lake.
Right. The Japanese don't know this, of course. But legally, according to the Pope, their country belongs to the King of Portugal.
Which means Blackthorne isn't just an explorer, he's an invader. He's a pirate sailing straight into enemy territory.
He's a heretic and a major threat. And the physical condition of his arrival really reflects that desperation. There's this one detail in the book that always sticks with me.
The apple.
Yes, the apple. Before the crash, Blackthorne is hoarding the very last apple on the ship. He cuts into it, and the core is just teeming with maggots.
And most of us would throw that overboard immediately. I mean, revolting.
But Blackthorne eats them. He eats the apple, maggots, and all.
Ugh, that is so disgusting.
It is, but it's survival.
Yeah.
He knows the maggots have protein. He knows they are life. That is the exact level of animal desperation he is operating on when he hits the shores of Japan.
He is a man reduced entirely to his biological imperatives.
Yeah. So he crashes, the ship is seized, and Blackthorne wakes up.
But he doesn't wake up in a dungeon, does he?
No, and this is the first real shock for him, the sensory overload. He wakes up in a room in the village of Anjiro, and it's incredibly clean.
Confusingly clean for an English sailor in 1600.
Right. He's used to the ship, which smells of bilge water, vomit, unwashed bodies, death. But he wakes up on these soft tatami mats that smell of fresh straw. The wood of the walls is polished cedar. The air is completely fresh.
And the people themselves.
Pristine. They bathe daily in scalding hot water. Now, you have to remember, in Elizabethan England, people thought bathing was dangerous.
They thought it opened your pores to the plague.
Exactly. Blackthorne probably hasn't had a real bath in years.
So there's this immediate inversion of superiority. Blackthorne thinks to himself, I am the civilized European with the compass and the musket. You people are the savages.
But the Japanese look at him, this giant, hairy, stinking beast of a man who eats meat with his bare hands and handles dead bodies. And they are physically repulsed.
To them, he is the barbarian. He is the savage.
And that dynamic really drives the entire first act of the story.
And just when he's trying to get his bearings, trying to figure out where he is, the antagonist walks in. And it's a face he instantly recognizes.
A Jesuit priest, Father Sebastio.
You would think after all that trauma, he'd be relieved to see another European.
Under literally any other circumstances, maybe. But remember the context. They're at war.
Right.
The priest immediately realizes who Blackthorne is. He's a Dutch-employed heretic. And here we see the first major theme of the narrative emerge, which is that language is power.
Because Blackthorne can't speak a word of Japanese.
Right, he is effectively mute. So the priest acts as the translator for the local samurai authorities. But he doesn't just translate, he frames the entire reality.
He weaponizes the translation?
Exactly. He tells the Japanese, this man is a pirate. He's evil. He's a criminal.
While Blackthorne is probably screaming, I am a pilot, I'm an officer.
Yeah, but the priest just turns to the samurai and translates it as, the barbarian is barking.
That is just terrifying, to be completely at the mercy of your enemy's voice.
It really is. And through this, we are introduced to the local authority, the warlord of this province, Kasigi Yabu. Now, Yabu is a character who perfectly embodies the duality of this world.
Yabu is, well, he's a nightmare.
He is a sadist, certainly, but he's also a samurai. There's this zine early on that establishes exactly the value of life in this place. Yabu decides to boil a man alive.
One of Blackthorne's crewmates, right?
Actually, in the text, it involves a local fisherman who helped the barbarian. But the threat is actively hanging over the entire crew. And the boiling isn't done in a rage. It's not some crime of passion.
No, Yabu does it with this sense of detached curiosity.
Yes, he wants to see how long the man survives. He literally wants to hear how the pitch of the screams changes as the water heats up.
It's treated like a bizarre science experiment.
It creates this terrifying atmosphere where life is incredibly cheap. A peasant, a sailor, even a samurai can be killed on a total whim. Yet the death is ritualized. It's polite.
And this is what Blackthorne simply cannot process. How can these people be so polite and so casually murderous at the exact same time?
So he tries to stand up to them. He tries to pull rank. He meets Omi, who is Yabu's nephew and the head samurai of the village. Yeah. And Blackthorne is thinking, I'm a pilot major, I'm an officer.
And Omi teaches him the reality of his situation very quickly.
Brutally quickly. Omi beats him into total submission. Blackthorne is dragged to a pit. He's pissed on. He's stripped of his clothes and his dignity. He is left to just rot in the mud.
It's a complete ground-up deconstruction of his ego.
It has to be. For Blackthorne to eventually become the Anjin-san, John Blackthorne, the arrogant Englishman, has to be broken.
He has to realize that his king, his laws, and his supposed rights mean absolutely nothing here.
Nothing. He's less than a peasant. He's completely outside the system. And in Japan at this time, if you are outside the system, you are nothing.
So while Blackthorne is struggling just to survive the pit and the boiling pot, we really need to zoom out for a second. Because he hasn't just landed in some isolated village. He's landed in a country right on the brink of civil war.
Yes, the political vacuum is the engine of this entire narrative. The great dictator, the Taku, has recently died. He was the man who unified Japan with an iron fist.
But he left behind a massive problem.
A very small, very massive problem. A 7-year-old heir named Yemon.
And obviously, a child cannot rule a nation of wolves.
Right. So before he died, the Taikut set up a council of regents. 5 powerful warlords who are supposed to rule together until the boy comes of age.
Which, sounds great on paper, but in reality.
In reality, it's a complete gridlock of ambition. The council is split. On one side, you have Ishido. He is the bureaucrat, the administrator. He holds the great castle of Osaka, which is considered totally impregnable.
And crucially, he has physical custody of the air.
Exactly. He commands the allegiance of the West.
And on the other side, we have the man who will become the ultimate center of gravity for our story, Yoshi Toranaga.
The Lord of the Kwanto, the East. Toranaga is an absolute legend. He's a brilliant strategist, a warrior who has survived 50 battles.
Yeah.
But on the council, he is isolated.
Ishido has maneuvered the other 3 regents against him.
So Toranaga is outnumbered 4-1.
Effectively, yes. And as the story opens, Toranaga has been summoned to Osaka Castle. Ostensibly, it's just for a meeting.
But everybody knows it's a trap.
Right. Ishido plans to impeach Toranaga, strip him of his lands, and force him to commit seppuku, ritual suicide.
So Toranaga is walking straight into the lion's den. because to refuse the summons would be treason.
He's playing a game where he is already in check from the first move.
He needs a miracle. He needs some kind of chaotic element to disrupt Ishido's perfectly laid plans.
And enter the barbarian.
Enter the barbarian. Toranaga hears reports from his spies. A strange ship has crashed. It has guns, 20 cannon, and 500 muskets.
And it has a pilot who absolutely hates the Portuguese priests.
Toranaga is immediately intrigued. He is a master opportunist. He knows the Jesuits and the Portuguese are incredibly powerful. He knows they have influenced the Christian warlords on the council.
But he suspects they're hiding things.
Right. He wants to know if this barbarian can be used as a wedge.
So Blackthorne is hauled out of the pit in Anjiro, cleaned up slightly, and shipped off to Osaka to meet the great warlord. And this meeting, this interview, is the scene that changes everything.
It is electric. You have Toranaga sitting on a dais, just radiating power. The text uses falcon imagery constantly with him.
He sits like a hawk, watching, just waiting to strike.
And you have Blackthorne slowly realizing that this man is the ultimate authority.
Now, the Jesuit priest is there to translate again, actively trying to sabotage Blackthorne.
But Toranaga is way too smart for that. He sees the hatred between the priest and the pilot, so he allows Blackthorne to speak through a different translator eventually.
And then Blackthorne does something that just blows the roof off the castle. He draws a map.
A map in the sand.
He draws a map of the world.
And you have to realize, the Japanese have only ever seen maps provided by the Portuguese. Those maps show a world completely dominated by Portugal, with Japan as just some remote little outpost.
They don't show the Protestant nations. They don't show the true scale of the Americas.
But Blackthorne draws the reality. He draws the globe. He explains the Treaty of Tordesillas.
He basically tells Toranaga, look, the Pope drew a line right here. He gave the Americas to Spain and the East to Portugal. According to their God and their king, your country belongs to Portugal.
That revelation must have been a seismic shock.
It shatters Toranaga's entire worldview. He realizes that for 50 years, the Jesuits haven't just been saving souls. They have been the advance guard of a massive colonial empire.
They are actively preparing Japan for conquest.
It's a moment of total clarity. The Jesuits aren't friends. They are invaders in robes.
And suddenly, Blackthorne isn't just some dirty pirate anymore. He is raw intelligence. He is leverage. He is literally the only man who knows the truth about the outside world.
Toranaga realizes he can use this man to break the Jesuit monopoly and severely weaken his enemies.
But of course, this new value makes Blackthorne a massive target. Ishida wants him dead because he's Toranaga's new pet. The Jesuits want him dead because he knows way too much.
And Toranaga is still fundamentally trapped in Osaka Castle.
Which leads to one of the most incredible action sequences in the entire book, the escape from Osaka.
Toranaga realizes the trap is closing fast. He has to get out now and return to his armies in the east. But he obviously can't just walk out the front door.
So he pulls a classic switch. He swaps places with a woman in a litter, a closed carriage carried by men. He hides inside, pretending to be his own consort leaving the castle.
It's high-stakes theater. But right at the main gate, the guards get suspicious. They want to check inside the litter.
And if they find Toranaga, it is game over. His head goes on a spike.
And this is exactly where Blackthorne proves he's more than just a map maker. He sees the guards approaching the litter. He knows he needs a huge distraction. So what does he do?
He goes completely crazy.
He starts dancing.
He starts dancing a hornpipe. He capers around, singing at the absolute top of his lungs, acting like a possessed demon.
The mad barbarian routine.
It works perfectly because it plays directly into their prejudices. The samurai look at him and think this man is utterly insane. He has lost his mind.
It creates this wave of confusion, disgust, and amusement. And in that one moment of chaos, the litter slips right through the gate.
He literally saves Toranaga's life with a dance.
He does. And then they race to the harbor. They have to get on a boat and outrun Ishido's navy. And here we see another truly fascinating relationship develop.
Right. Blackthorne takes the helm of the galley, but he's not alone. He's working with Rodriguez,
The Portuguese pilot.
the sworn enemy. Rodriguez works directly for the Jesuits. By all rights, he should stab Blackthorne in the back and steer the ship straight into the rocks.
But they're both pilots. Capital P.
Exactly. There is a deep professional code there. The sea tries to kill everyone equally. When a massive storm hits during the escape, Blackthorne and Rodriguez work together seamlessly.
They scream orders, they handle the rudder, they read the waves. Blackthorne saves Rodriguez from being washed overboard, and later Rodriguez saves Blackthorne.
It's amazing that in the middle of this vicious religious war, Competence recognizes confidence.
The sea doesn't care if you're Catholic or Protestant.
And for that one night, neither do they. It really establishes that Blackthorne has an identity, pilot, that is stronger than his nationality.
So they escape. They make it to the open sea. Toranaga is free. He returns to his fortress in the Kwanto. And now the game changes completely. Toranaga decides to actually invest in his new asset.
This brings us to the education of the Anjin-san. Toranaga takes this dirty, loud Englishman and decides to make him a samurai.
Which is unprecedented, right?
Completely unheard of.
Right.
He makes him a haramoto, a bannerman. This is a very high rank. He gives him 2 swords, which literally gives him the right to kill commoners who disrespect him.
He gives him a house, servants, and a massive income.
He gives him a new name, too. Anjin-san, Mr. Pilot. He essentially deletes John Blackthorne, the English pirate, and installs a completely new operating system.
But being a samurai isn't just about getting cool swords and a big house. It's about total integration into the system. And for that, Toranaga assigns him a consort, Fujiko.
Fujiko's story is just, it breaks your heart.
It really does.
It is the starkest example of the cruelty of this specific world. Fujiko is a noblewoman whose husband was executed for a minor incompetence. Her infant son was put to death as well. She has lost literally everything.
She just wants to die.
She begs Toranaga for permission to commit seppuku. She wants to join her family in the afterlife, but Toranaga outright refuses. He orders her to live. He orders her to serve the barbarian.
That must be a fate worse than death for her.
Oh, to her, Blackthorne is a stinking beast. But she is samurai. Her duty is absolute. She swallows her grief, she locks away her hatred, and she serves him.
She runs his house with an iron fist. She manages his money. She fiercely protects his interests.
And over time, that relationship genuinely changes, doesn't it?
It does. It moves from sheer disgust to a strange kind of mutual respect and eventually this deep platonic bond.
But the real teacher, the real bridge to the Japanese soul for him, is Mariko.
Lady Toto Mariko.
She is, without a doubt, the most complex character in the entire book. Toranaga assigns her to be Blackthorne's interpreter.
Why her specifically?
Well, because she speaks Portuguese and Latin, having been taught by the Jesuits. She's a devout convert to Catholicism. But more importantly, she is compromised.
Compromise how?
Her father was Akechi Jinsai. Years ago, he assassinated the previous dictator, Goroda.
And in Japan, treason is a bloodstain that never washes out.
Never. Her entire family was hunted down and killed. She only survived because she was married to Buntaro, a powerful warlord.
So she lives in the state of perpetual shame.
She lives in deep dishonor. She also wants to die, but her husband Buntaro hates her and actively refuses to let her regain her honor through suicide. He forces her to live purely as a punishment.
So just like Blackthorne, she is trapped. She's a total outcast.
And as she teaches Blackthorne the language, she teaches him the underlying philosophy. And this brings us to one of the most vital concepts in the book, the 3 hearts.
Yes, the 3 hearts. This is the key. If you want to understand anything in this story, you have to understand the 3 hearts.
Mariko explains to Blackthorne that a person has 3 hearts. The first is in the mouth. This is what you tell the world. The polite lies, the necessary social pleasantries.
That did to me.
Exactly, the public face. The second heart is in the chest. This is what you tell your friends and family. It's a bit closer to the truth, but it's still filtered.
And the third?
The third is the secret heart. It is buried deep inside. It is known only to yourself. It is exactly where you keep your true intentions, your true hatreds, your ultimate goals.
And Mariko teaches him that you never, ever let anyone see your secret heart.
In the West, we call that being two-faced, right? We heavily value transparency. What you see is what you get.
But in feudal Japan, transparency gets you killed. Harmony, is the highest possible good. If you hate your boss, you smile and bow, because to show your anger would disrupt the harmony.
The secret heart is a pure survival mechanism. It's a fortress where your soul can be free while your physical body obeys.
And Blackthorne really struggles with this. He's impulsive, he yells when he's angry.
And that inability to adapt immediately leads to the pheasant incident. This is the exact moment where the culture shock stops being funny and becomes deeply tragic.
Paint the picture for us.
Blackthorne is given a pheasant as a gift. He's English, so he likes his game meat aged. He hangs the dead bird up under the eaves of his house to just let it rot a bit.
Which to the Japanese, who are utterly obsessed with cleanliness and purity, is vile.
It's effectively a biohazard in their eyes. The flies gather, the smell starts to waft through the entire village. The servants are terrified.
But Blackthorne, in a moment of sheer frustration and kind of dark humor, tells them, if anyone touches this bird, I will kill them.
He's joking. He's just using hyperbole.
But a Hatamoto doesn't joke. His word is absolute law.
So the old gardener, Uekia, watches the bird rot. He sees the flies. He knows it is bringing sickness to the house. He is torn between two vital duties, the duty to keep the house clean and the duty to obey the master.
So what does he do?
He decides that the purity of the house is more important. He takes the bird down and buries it. And then he immediately reports himself to the village headman. He says, I have disobeyed the master's order.
And the consequence.
Execution. The headman kills the gardener immediately.
Blackthorne comes home, finds the bird gone, and casually asks what the gardener is. When he finds out the old man was killed over a dead bird, he just loses it.
He is completely horrified. He screams, it was a senseless death. It was just a bird. He feels the old man's blood on his own hands.
And this is where Mariko has to step in and explain the unexplainable to him.
She tells him, it was not senseless, Anji-san. It was the law. She explains that their entire society is built on absolute obedience.
If a gardener can disobey a Hatamoto, then a samurai can disobey a lord.
And if a samurai disobeys a lord, the entire structure of civilization collapses into chaos. The gardener died to uphold the law. To them, his death had profound meaning. It maintained the order.
That is just such a hard concept for a modern mind, or a Western mind, to grasp, that the abstract idea of order is worth more than a human life.
It is the fundamental difference. Individual rights versus collective stability. Blackthorne hates it, but he finally learns from it. He realizes he absolutely cannot impose his values on this world.
He has to adapt. He starts to bathe regularly. He learns to control his temper. He begins to build his own secret heart.
While Blackthorne is learning these incredibly hard lessons, the political chessboard is violently shifting. Toranaga is back in the east, but his enemies are gathering, and he has a major problem in his own ranks.
Yabu.
The boiling man guy.
Yes. Yabu is the classic treacherous vassal. He is sworn to Toranaga, but he's secretly sending letters to Ishido. He wants to be on the winning side, and he thinks Toranaga is doomed.
But Yabu is completely obsessed with Blackthorne's guns.
He sees the muskets and cannons and thinks, if I can control the Anjin and his weapons, I don't need Toranaga or Ishido. I can be the kingmaker.
Toranaga knows Yabu's a snake, right? Oh, Toranaga knows everything. His spy network is incredible. But he needs Yabu's troops. He can't afford to just execute him yet. So he plays a brilliant psychological masterstroke. He gives Yabu a gift.
A sword.
Not just any sword. A priceless, legendary blade. He presents it to Yabu in front of the entire court. He loudly praises Yabu's loyalty.
That is genius.
It's a perfect trap. By honoring Yabu so publicly, he makes it completely impossible for Yabu to betray him immediately.
Because if Yabu turned on him the very next day, Yabu would lose all face.
He would be seen as a total monster of ingratitude. No one would ever trust him again. The sword literally binds him in invisible chains of honor.
And then the land itself intervenes. The earthquake.
Japan is the land of earthquakes. A massive tremor hits while Toranaga and Blackthorne are traveling. The ground literally splits open. Toranaga falls into a fissure.
And Blackthorne doesn't even hesitate. He dives straight in.
He pulls the warlord out of the earth.
Yeah.
It's the second or third time he has directly saved Toranaga's life.
Surely at this point they are friends.
You really have to be careful with that word. Toranaga doesn't really have friends. He has vassals. He sees Blackthorne's action not as affection, but as karma.
He thinks this Anjin has incredible luck, and luck is a vital quality in a leader.
He keeps Blackthorne close because Blackthorne is a talisman. He is a highly useful tool.
But tools can't solve every single problem. Toranaga is facing the Christian daimyos. Who are they?
These are the heavy hitters on the council, Lords Kiyama and Onoshi. They are samurai warlords who have converted to Christianity. They command massive armies.
And they are largely controlled by the Jesuits.
Because the Jesuits control the money. The Black Ship. This is the key economic engine of the entire region. Every year, a massive Portuguese ship comes from Macau filled with Chinese silk.
It sells the silk in Japan for silver, then takes the silver back to China.
It's a trade worth absolute millions. The Jesuits broker the deal. They use the massive profits to directly fund the Christian warlords.
So Toranaga can't just fight them on the battlefield. He has to break their bank.
Exactly. If the Christian daimyos side with Ishido, Toranaga loses the war. He needs to peel them away. That's exactly why he keeps threatening to let Blackthorne loose on the Black Ship.
It's a massive bargaining chip. Back off or I'll let my pirate sink your treasure ship.
Everything is building up to the war. The plan is called Crimson Sky.
Crimson Sky, it sounds apocalyptic.
It is a plan for a lightning strike, a desperate all-out rush to the capital, Kyoto, to seize the emperor and unilaterally declare a new shogunate. Everyone fully expects Toranaga to launch Crimson Sky.
But he doesn't. He stalls.
He does something totally baffling. He surrenders, or at least he pretends to. He dismisses his top generals. He spends all his days hawking.
He tells his son Naga, "It's over. We will go to Osaka and bow to Ishido."
His followers are devastated. They think the old man has finally gone senile. They think he's a coward.
It's the ultimate expression of the secret heart.
Toranaga knows that Ishido's alliance is incredibly fragile. It's held together only by their mutual fear of Toranaga. If Toranaga looks weak, if he looks completely defeated, the fear evaporates.
And when the fear is gone, the wolves will start fighting each other over the carcass.
Toranaga is literally playing dead to make his enemies turn on each other.
But he does drop a clue. The tea ceremony scene.
This is one of the most subtle, beautiful scenes in the book. The world is completely falling apart, armies are marching, and Toranaga invites Mariko to a private tea ceremony. It's quiet. It's highly ritualistic.
They discuss a tea jar.
The Tang jar. A priceless ceramic piece. Toranaga recites a poem. He quietly says the jar should be sent to the emperor.
What does that mean?
It's a code. To the emperor, not to Ishido. It implies that he recognizes no authority but the emperor. It's a whisper to Mariko. I have not given up. I am preparing the final move.
And Mariko understands.
She understands instantly. She realizes that she is the piece that will be played.
Before we get to that final move, we have to talk about the tension back at the camp. Buntaro, Mariko's husband, returns. And he knows something is going on between Blackthorne and his wife.
It's an explosive love triangle. Buntaro is a beast of a man, a lethal archer. He senses the deep connection between them. There's a scene where they're drinking sake, and the tension is so thick you can cut it with a katana.
Buntaro demonstrates his archery, literally nearly killing Blackthorne, just to visually show his dominance.
And Toranaga uses this too. He deliberately teases the idea of letting Mariko divorce Buntaro.
Which would be socially catastrophic.
But he uses it to manipulate all of them. He sees that Blackthorne is deeply in love with Mariko. He sees that Mariko is duty-bound to Buntaro, but intellectually mated to Blackthorne.
He needs Blackthorne distracted, so he sends him to the Willow World.
To Kiku, the courtesan, the most beautiful woman in the province.
Yeah.
It's a highly transactional relationship, very different from the spiritual intensity he has with Mariko.
But it keeps Blackthorne occupied while Toranaga positions Mariko for the ultimate sacrifice.
The final gambit. The buildup is over. Toranaga makes his move. He sends Mariko back to Osaka.
Straight into the heart of enemy territory. Her mission is simple but deadly. She is to go to the castle and formally demand to leave.
Why? Because Ishido is holding the families of all the daimyos as guests. In reality, they are hostages. As long as he holds the hostages, the daimyos have to do exactly what he says.
So Mariko is the absolute key to breaking that.
She goes to the castle. She says, "My lord Toranaga calls me. I am leaving." If Ishido lets her go, he publicly admits he has no right to hold anyone. The other hostages will leave, and his power completely collapses.
But if he stops her, then he openly admits he is a tyrant holding hostages against a Taiku's law.
It's a trap, a perfect catch-22.
So Mariko forces the issue. She packs her bags. She walks to the main gate. The guards cross their spears to physically stop her.
And she plays the ultimate card. She says, "I am a samurai. I have been dishonored by being stopped. I cannot obey my lord. Therefore, I must kill myself."
She threatens seppuku right there at the gate.
It is arguably the bravest moment in the book. She is one woman, armed only with her duty, holding a knife to her throat, staring down an entire army.
She puts Ishido in an impossible position. If she dies, her blood is directly on his hands, and the daimyos will instantly revolt.
And Blackthorne is right there with her.
He is. He provides the distraction, the muscle. He brings his barbarian unpredictability. He stands by her side, proving that he is a samurai too. He is fully willing to die for the cause.
I won't spoil exactly how that specific scene ends for those who haven't read it, but it is deeply tragic and intensely triumphant. The Crimson Sky wasn't a military attack at all. It was Mariko.
She was the arrow Toranaga fired straight into the heart of the enemy alliance.
And she hit the exact mark.
The book ends right on the precipice of the Great War. We know the Battle of Sekigahara is coming, but in a way, the war is already won.
Toranaga has completely won it in the shadows. He's dismantled the council. He has neutralized the church. He has secured the support of the daimyos. The actual battle is basically just the cleanup operation.
So let's wrap this up. Let's look at the ultimate takeaways of this journey. John Blackthorne. He started as a piece of meat in a mud pit. He ends as a Hatamoto, a trusted advisor, a true samurai.
He undergoes a totally profound metamorphosis. But the real core theme here is karma, the Japanese concept of fate.
Blackthorne spends the entire book aggressively fighting his fate. I will fix this. I will change this. I will go home.
Well, the samurai just say, "Shigata ganai," it cannot be helped. If it rains, it rains. If I die, I die.
The victory really comes from fusing those two things, the Western will to fight and the Eastern acceptance of reality.
Exactly. And the final revelation of the secret heart. Toranaga never told anyone his full plan. Not Mariko, not his generals, and certainly not the Anjin-san.
That is the lingering question for me. Did Blackthorne ever truly understand Japan? Or was he just the most useful tool Toranaga ever found?
It's the ultimate tragedy of the story. Blackthorne really thinks he and Toranaga are friends. He thinks they're genuine partners.
But the text makes it devastatingly clear. To Toranaga, Blackthorne is a falcon.
You love the falcon. You feed it the best meat. You stroke its feathers. You whisper to it. But why do you keep it?
To hunt.
To hunt. And if the falcon dies bringing down the prey, shigata ganai, it cannot be helped.
Yeah.
You simply get another falcon.
That is incredibly chilling. But what if Toranaga's secret heart wasn't just raw ambition? What if he genuinely believed he was the only single person who could save Japan from being colonized by the West?
That changes the entire reading, doesn't it? It frames all his manipulation as a terrible necessity. It is the essence of absolute power. Toranaga becomes Shōgun because he is fully willing to spend lives, even the lives of those he deeply loves, like currency.
It is a beast of a book. It's a world you can just get completely lost in for months. We've only barely scratched the surface here. We didn't even get to the ninjas or the specific military tactics, but hopefully we've given you the keys to unlock the secret heart of this incredible story.
It is absolutely a world worth exploring. Just, watch out for the boiling water.
Huh? Good advice. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Keep your 3 hearts beating, and we'll see you next time.